I picked up a second job to cover the costs of my sister's dream wedding, but she insulted me, calling me an ugly old woman. Who would marry old-looking woman like you? Furious, I canceled all the bookings and withdrew my financial support for her wedding, she shocked Bez. Her marriage ended and her fiancé broke off the engagement. I'm Amy, and I'm 10 years older than my little sister, Kathleen. From the moment she was born, our parents made it clear she was special. Look at those beautiful green eyes, they would say. Have you ever seen such perfect golden curls? Meanwhile, I stood in the background with my plain brown hair and ordinary face, watching them admire her. Don't get me wrong, I loved my sister. How could I not? She was tiny, perfect, and always needed care. Since our parents worked long hours, guess who became her second mother? That's right, me. Amy, honey, Mom would say, can you help Kathleen with her homework? You're so good at math. Or, Amy, dear, would you mind picking up your sister from school? We're both stuck at work. I remember one evening when I was 15 and Kathleen was 6. I was helping her with her reading while trying to finish my own pile of homework. I don't want to read anymore, Kathleen whined, pushing the book away. It's boring. Come on, Kathleen, I said, pulling the book back. Just 3 more pages, then we can play your favorite game. She pouted but picked up the book again. You're no fun, Amy. Shirley's big sister takes her to the park every day after school. Well, Shirley's big sister doesn't have to work at the library after school, I replied. It hurt a little, but it was the truth. I was already balancing school, housework, and a part-time job at the library to help our family with money. That was our life, Kathleen being Kathleen and me being whatever everyone needed me to be. By the time I was 17, I had 3 jobs, working at a cafe in the morning, the library after school, and doing online data entry at night. Also, we could afford Kathleen's dance classes, private tutoring, and the beautiful clothes that made her the most popular girl at school. I kept telling myself things would get better, that one day, Kathleen would understand and appreciate everything I did for her, that maybe, just maybe, our parents would finally look at me with the same pride they had when they talked about her. But looking back, I realized I was just telling myself what I needed to hear to keep going. When it was time to apply for college, I knew my choices were limited. Not because of my grades, they were actually pretty good even with 3 jobs. I had even earned several scholarships to universities in other states. You got accepted to Mountain View? Mom asked when the letter arrived. Her eyes widened for a moment, but then she frowned. But, honey, who will help Kathleen with her college prep? And you know we can't afford that kind of tuition. I remember standing in the kitchen, holding my acceptance letter, watching as Mom's attention drifted to Kathleen's latest art project on the fridge. I didn't even mention that I had been offered a partial scholarship. What was the point? So I enrolled at the local city college, kept working at the cafe and library, and continued being Kathleen's support system. During my first year of college, my days were packed. I rushed from morning classes to work, then home to help Kathleen with her homework. Some nights, I was up until 3 a.m. finishing my own assignments, only to wake up at 6 a.m. for my cafe shift. After graduation, I got a decent job at an accounting firm and finally moved into my own apartment. It wasn't much, a small 1-bedroom with bad plumbing, but it was mine. I thought maybe now things would change. Maybe now, I could finally focus on my own life. Then, the phone call came about Kathleen's graduation dress. Honey, Mom said in that familiar pleading voice, you know how important this is to your sister. She needs to look perfect for her graduation. I let out a bitter laugh, remembering my own graduation dress, a $40 clearance rack find. It ended up being the same dress another girl, Carolyn Jones, wore. I had spent the whole night avoiding being in the same photos as her. How much does she want for the dress? I asked, already reaching for my credit card. Well, she found this gorgeous designer one. It's only $1,000. I almost choked on my coffee. $1,000? That was nearly a month's rent, but I still heard myself saying, okay, Mom, I'll transfer the money. Then came the real shock. Kathleen had been accepted to Woodlands University, one of the most expensive private colleges in the state. And somehow, our parents had saved up a large amount of money for her tuition. We've been saving since she was born, Dad said proudly at dinner. Our little girl deserves the best education possible. I sat there, my fork frozen halfway to my mouth, thinking about all the student loans I was still paying off, all the scholarships I had to turn down, all the years I worked multiple jobs just to afford my public college tuition. And all that time, they had been saving for Kathleen's education. But it didn't stop there. A few weeks after Kathleen started at Woodlands, the requests began. Amy, sweetie, Mom called one evening. Kathleen needs help with her apartment rent, just until she gets settled. Then it was textbooks. Then a laptop because all the other students had MacBooks. Then a new iPhone because the one I bought her last year was embarrassing. Food money, clothes money. Every week, there was a new expense. A new emergency. A new reason why Kathleen needed my help. And through it all, she never once said thank you, never once admitted the sacrifices I was making. To her, I was just the family ATM, always giving, never questioning. 4 years later, I was at my kitchen table, reviewing my monthly budget, when my phone rang. Mom sounded excited. "Amy, you need to come over right now. Kathleen has big news." When I got to my parents' house, I found Kathleen practically bouncing with excitement, flashing a giant diamond ring. "I'm getting married," she squealed. "And I'm leaving college." The room went silent. "You're what?" I finally asked. "Oh, don't look so shocked," Kathleen said, rolling her eyes. "College is boring anyway. Henry makes great money, and we're going to have the most amazing wedding." I felt like I was underwater. All those years of work. All that money. My money just gone. I looked at my parents, waiting for them to say something. Anything. But they just sat there, smiling at Kathleen like she had just announced she cured cancer. "What about your degree?" I asked. "We all invested so much in." "Oh my God, Amy. You're such a buzzkill," Kathleen interrupted. "This is why you're still single. You're always so serious and boring." Then, she started talking about her dream wedding, one that would outshine all her friends' weddings. The venue, the flowers, the dress, everything had to be perfect. Which, of course, meant expensive. Then came the real blow. "Honey," Dad said, clearing his throat, "we took out a loan, but it's not quite enough. And since you're part of the family, we need you to contribute," Mom added. "It's your sister's special day, after all." I felt like I was outside of my own body as I heard myself ask, "How much?" $30,000 should cover your share," Kathleen said casually. Like, she was asking for $6 for coffee. I don't know why I said yes. Maybe it was just a habit. Maybe it was the way Mom's eyes filled with tears. Maybe saying yes was just easier than arguing. But I agreed, and the money left my account the next day. But they weren't done. "Actually, sweetie," Mom said at our next family dinner, "we were thinking, maybe you could take out a loan too? Just a small one to help with the extra expenses." For the first time in my life, something inside me snapped. "No," I said firmly. "Absolutely not. I'm saving for a house. I need to think about my own future too." Kathleen's perfect face twisted into an ugly scowl. "Since when did you become so selfish?" My hand shook under the table, but I stood my ground. "I already gave you $30,000, Kathleen. That's my limit." The silence that followed was painful. Then, Mom spoke in that fake sweet tone I knew so well. "Well, if you won't help financially anymore, the least you can do is help with the wedding plans." I nodded, already feeling the weight of responsibility pressing down on me again. But something had changed. For the first time ever, I had said no to them. It was a small win, but it felt huge. The next few weeks were a nightmare. My phone buzzed constantly with messages from Kathleen, each one demanding more money for something urgent. "Amy, I found the perfect flowers. They're only $4,000. I need the money by tomorrow, or they'll give them to another bride. OMG, this band is amazing. They played at Maria's wedding, and I have to have them. They're asking for $6,000. Can you send it tonight? The venue I want is available, but we need a deposit today. It's just $95,000. You'll handle it, right?" I took a second job as a virtual assistant, working nights and weekends. My days blurred together. Spreadsheets at my accounting job, wedding planning on my lunch breaks if I even got one, then more hours in front of the computer at night. One day, my coworker Carolyn stopped me in the break room. "Amy, are you okay? You look different." I caught my reflection in the window and barely recognized myself. Dark circles under my eyes. Clothes hanging loose from weight I didn't even notice I had lost. Hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. I couldn't remember the last time I had gotten a haircut. "I'm fine," I said automatically. "Just busy with my sister's wedding." That night, I crawled into bed at 2 a.m., my eyes burning from staring at screens all day. Just as I was about to fall asleep, my phone lit up with another message from Kathleen. "Just found the most amazing ice sculpture for the reception. Only $3,500. Need the money by morning, or they'll sell it to someone else." I turned off my phone and pressed my face into my pillow, trying not to cry. I was exhausted. I had already paid for the venue, the catering, the flowers, and the band. How much more could they possibly want? The answer came a week later, when Mom called. "Honey, we need to have an important family talk. Can you come over tonight?" After work, I dragged myself to their house, dreading what they could possibly want now. My savings were gone. My credit card was maxed out. The only thing keeping me going was the thought that this nightmare would be over soon. When I walked in, I found Kathleen lounging on the couch, surrounded by travel magazines. Mom and Dad sat nearby, flipping through a fancy catalog with her. "Oh, this resort is perfect," Kathleen squealed, pointing to a page. Look at those overwater bungalows, and they have private butlers for every suite. I froze in the doorway, watching as she flipped through what looked like a luxury vacation brochure. My stomach tightened. I already knew what was coming. "Why am I here?" I asked, my voice barely steady. "What do you need from me this time?" Kathleen looked up with that fake sweet smile I had grown to hate. "Oh, we're just picking out your wedding gift to us." I blinked. "My what?" "Your wedding gift," she repeated slowly, like I was too stupid to understand. "I decided you're going to pay for our honeymoon in the Hawaii." The room started spinning. I grabbed the doorframe to keep myself steady. "Are you kidding me?" I managed to say, "after everything I've already paid for?" "Oh, come on, Amy," Mom said, rolling her eyes. "Don't be dramatic." "Dramatic? Dramatic?" My voice cracked. "I have spent every penny I have on this wedding." "Well, it's not like you have anything else to spend it on," Kathleen said with a shrug. "And it's only $35,000, something inside me snapped. 32 years of being the good daughter, the responsible sister, the family ATM, it all came crashing down. "Only $35,000, I screamed. "Only? Do you have any idea what I've gone through for your ridiculous wedding? Any idea at all?" "Amy, lower your voice," Dad warned. "No, I will not lower my voice. I'm done. I'm absolutely done with all of this." I was shaking now, years of anger and resentment bubbling to the surface. "You're nothing but a spoiled, selfish brat, Kathleen, and I'm done dealing with your endless demands. I have my own life to think about," I said firmly. Kathleen's face twisted with anger. "Your own life? What life? You're 32, Amy, an old maid. Have you looked in the mirror lately? No wonder you're single. You look terrible. What normal man would want you?" Her words hit like punches, but I didn't back down. "I look terrible because I've been working 3 jobs, 7 days a week, to pay for your wedding," I shot back. "I haven't had a full night's sleep in months because of your constant demands. You're just jealous." Kathleen spat. "Jealous because I'm getting married and you'll die alone. Jealous because I'm beautiful and successful and you're just you." That was it. The dam broke. "Successful?" I laughed bitterly. "You dropped out of the college I helped pay for. Beautiful? Your soul is as ugly as they come. You've never worked a day in your life. You've never thanked me for anything I've done for you. You act like the world owes you everything." I took a deep breath and looked her in the eye. "You know what? I'm done being part of your spoiled little world." I turned and stormed out of the house, Kathleen's voice screaming behind me. "You're nothing but a jealous witch. No wonder no one will ever marry you." Behind me, I heard Mom and Dad join in, throwing insults at my back. But for the first time in my life, I didn't turn around. I didn't apologize. I didn't give in. By the time I got home, my phone was blowing up with messages. Mom had sent at least 35 texts, each one nastier than the last. "How dare you speak to your sister that way after everything we've done for you? You're nothing but a selfish, ungrateful daughter. How could you ruin your sister's special day?" I stared at the messages until the words blurred together. Then, I did something I had never done before. Something that felt both terrifying and freeing. I opened my laptop and started sending emails. To the venue, "I need to cancel the reservation and withdraw my payment." To the florist, "Please cancel the order for the wedding arrangements." To the catering company, "I'm canceling the food service for the following date." To the band, "Unfortunately, I need to withdraw my booking." One by one, I undid everything I had arranged for Kathleen's wedding. My hands were shaking, but my mind had never been clearer. The wedding was only 3 weeks away. But I didn't care anymore. With each cancellation, I felt lighter. Then, all hell broke loose. My phone started ringing non-stop. When I blocked Mom's number, she started calling from Dad's phone. When I blocked that number, Mom started calling from their landline. Then came the messages from everywhere. Email, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. I blocked them all. "Amy, please call your Aunt Heather." "Why won't you answer Uncle Douglas's calls? Your cousin Helen is very upset with you." "How could you do this to your own sister?" Calls came from distant relatives I hadn't spoken to in years, family friends I barely knew. Even Kathleen's future in-laws. I stopped answering my phone altogether. Then, they started showing up in person. One night, I was trying to sleep when I heard shouting outside my window, "Amy, get down here right now." Mom's voice was sharp and angry. "You better fix this, you selfish witch." That was Kathleen. They stood outside for hours, switching between yelling and fake sobbing. I turned up my TV to block them out. The next morning, I went to Noah, our building's concierge. "Please don't let them in," I said quietly. "I don't care what they say. They're not welcome here." Noah, who had seen their behavior the night before, nodded with sympathy. "Don't worry, Miss Robertson. I'll take care of it." A week later, my friend Julie called. "Have you heard what happened?" she asked carefully. "What?" Your parents had to take out another emergency loan to cover everything you canceled. None of the vendors would do it on such short notice, without extra charges. They ended up paying double for everything. I sat in silence, letting that sink in. Part of me felt guilty, the part of me that had been trained since childhood to fix things, to make everything okay for everyone else. But a stronger part of me, the part that had finally learned to say no, knew I had done the right thing. A month later, I was scrolling through Instagram when I saw them, Kathleen's wedding photos. I hadn't meant to look, but a mutual friend had liked them, so there they were. The lavish wedding my sister had planned had turned into something very different. Instead of a 7-star hotel, they had used our parents' backyard. Instead of the $4,000 flower arrangements, they had simple grocery store bouquets. The expensive band was gone, replaced by a laptop and speakers on a folding table. Kathleen still wore her dream dress and looked as beautiful as ever, but something was off. Her smile looked forced, her eyes were tight with disappointment. And no honeymoon photos ever followed. The Hawaii dream had died along with the rest of her grand plans. I closed Instagram and went back to my life. For the first time in years, I was focusing on myself, sleeping normal hours, eating real meals, even looking like me again. Then, 4 months after the wedding, my phone rang. It was Dad. "Amy," he said, his voice tired. Older somehow. "We need to talk. Can you come over?" Something in his tone made me say yes. When I arrived at my parents' house, something felt different. Mom and Dad sat on the couch, looking defeated. Dad spoke first. "Kathleen is getting a divorce." The words hung in the air like smoke. I waited. "She and Henry." Mom's voice cracked. "They've been fighting since the wedding. He keeps complaining about how cheap everything was, how embarrassing it was that they couldn't even afford a proper band. And, he's furious about the canceled honeymoon." Dad sighed, staring at his hands. "The thing is, we took out 3 loans for that wedding. Even the smaller version was expensive. We're in pretty deep, Amy." I already knew what was coming. "We were hoping," Mom began. "No," I said quietly but firmly. "But Amy, we're parents. And I'm your daughter," I interrupted. "The one you never saved money for. The one who worked 3 jobs to put herself through college. The one who emptied her savings account for a wedding that should never have happened in the first place." They sat in stunned silence. Dad finally spoke, choosing his words carefully. "We realize now that we were partially wrong. The way we treated you." I stood up, smoothing my skirt. "Partially wrong? You've been wrong about everything. About me. About Kathleen. About money. About life. Maybe one day, you'll really see how wrong you were. But, until then..." I grabbed my keys. "Good luck with those loans." As I drove away, I glanced in the rearview mirror. I saw my parents standing in the doorway, looking lost and small. For the first time, I didn't turn back. Life has a funny way of showing you who people really are. 7 months after Kathleen's divorce, I was having coffee with Julie when she hesitated, stirring her latte a little too much. "Have you heard about Kathleen?" she asked carefully. I shook my head. After that long talk with my parents, I had kept my distance. I was focused on rebuilding my life. "She moved back in with your parents," Julie continued. "She's not working. Says she's too traumatized by the divorce to hold a job." She paused, lowering her voice. "But she's been dating. A lot. A new guy every week, from what I hear." "And my parents?" I asked, already knowing the answer. Julie sighed. "They're supporting her completely, paying for everything, her car, her clothes, her nights out. Even after those wedding loans, I wasn't surprised. Some things never change." Weeks turned into months. I quit my second job, finally able to focus on my career. I started taking care of myself. I joined a yoga class, got regular haircuts, bought clothes that weren't just for work. People started telling me I looked different. Then came the call. I never expected the call. It was Mom. Her voice sounded small, almost like a stranger's. "Amy, I need to tell you something. I owe you an apology." I sat down, bracing myself. "It's Kathleen. She met someone. A wealthy businessman." Mom's voice cracked. "She left with him yesterday. We don't know where." She paused. "But before she left, she maxed out all our credit cards. Every single one." Silence filled the space between us. "Mom," I started, but she cut me off. "No, please. Let me finish. Your father and I were in terrible debt now, but we're not calling to ask for money. We'll figure it out ourselves. We should have done that a long time ago." She took a shaky breath. "I just wanted to say, I'm sorry for everything." It wasn't a perfect apology. It didn't erase years of favoritism and manipulation, but it was something. These days, I don't know where Kathleen is. Sometimes, I see glimpses of her on social media. A tagged photo here, a location check-in there. But she's like a ghost, drifting from place to place, person to person. My parents and I exchange short messages on holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy birthday. Happy New Year. It's distant, surface level. But for now, it's all I can handle. Here's the thing about breaking free from toxic patterns: life has a way of filling the empty spaces with something better. 4 months ago, I met Jeremy at a coffee shop inside a bookstore. He was reading my favorite novel, and we started talking. He's kind, successful in his own way, but most importantly, he sees me. Really sees me. Last night, I was cleaning out old boxes when I found a photo of Kathleen and me as kids. She was 6, I was 13. We were both smiling at the camera, unaware of everything that was ahead. For a moment, I thought about keeping it. Instead, I put it back in the box. Some memories are better left in the past. Now, as I sit in my favorite coffee shop, Jeremy across from me, working on his laptop, occasionally glancing up to smile at me, I realize something. Sometimes, a happy ending isn't about getting everything you thought you wanted. Sometimes, it's about finally letting go of what was holding you back all along.